Hi everyone and welcome to your daily oracle guidance. Now this reading advises us more than anything to prepare ourselves for the next phase of this huge karmic pivotal point. In other words, this big storm, the eye of the storm that we are navigating towards, all of us without exception. And this is why the Child of Air opens the reading in challenge position. And even though this is a really positive, really light-hearted, really optimistic card, in shadow position, it kind of advises us to have a very personal, one-on-one, serious and deep conversation, symbolically of course, with our inner child, especially with our minds, if that can make sense, because this is the moment when, because of all this powerful astrological energy, the air element is very emphasized. It is basically the star and the highlight of all the other elements in the present moment, but that can also have a very, not negative, but rather disruptive effect on all of us. Because this is where, our minds are so open, so very receptive to everything that's going on, and we process it, and it makes a lot of sense to us. We are absolutely on the right path to figuring out our own truth, whatever this big karmic turmoil means for us personally. And this involves our future plans, of course, whatever we desire to accomplish, however we want to do it. We have to work with what we have, but since what we have is so changeable, we always have to keep an open mind. But at the same time, the air element is very light-hearted, it is very chaotic, it just flows like the wind wherever it wants to, and this represents a lot of mental chitter-chatter. The lower mind, the practical mind, the rational mind, simply cannot exist in such a focused, such a stressed state where it feels like it's almost obliged to process everything. So, the inner child sends a lot of confusing thoughts in our mental sphere. For example, a lot of fantasies, a lot of desires, a lot of things which we really want to be living and experiencing, but we can't in the present moment. Childhood memories, for example, fantasies, what we would love to experience, and of course, a lot of doubts, confusion, and a lot of negativity, because the depressive vibes, the self-defeating thoughts are also part of this. So basically, our minds are keeping us rather ungrounded in the present moment because it refuses to focus, it just refuses to take things that seriously. But also, it is perfectly understandable because this is just a coping mechanism. Because if we wouldn't, be running the coping mechanism at the same time, we'd be immersed in a lot of turmoil. Our depression, our fears, our insecurities would definitely get to us. But in the present moment, there isn't a choice. We have to face reality. We have to shut out all the chaos, all the playfulness, all the silliness, basically, of the inner child, of our mental spheres, and just focus on reality, focus on realism, and not so much pessimism, whatever our fears are, whatever can go wrong, whatever we don't have that many probabilities to succeed at, but neither our optimism. So this is where wishful thinking, well, that everything is gonna be okay without any effort, without any sacrifice, will just fall into place because we trust ourselves, we trust the universe, we trust our lightheartedness. Now that is also something really negative in the present moment because it's definitely not gonna be that way. This is not a moment when we have to trust air. We cannot trust something which isn't solid. We cannot trust something which is so uncertain. This is where whatever we can trust has to make sense, has to be logical, and it has to be very, very in tune with realism. So it doesn't matter how this inner child enters in your life, may it be your doubts and fears and your confusing thoughts, or may it be a Neptunian idealistic kind of optimism which makes no real sense, but at least it feeds us with, ambition to keep calm and keep on doing our stuff, keep on being hopeful, keep on being ignorantly blissful. This is where none of this is an option. We had a time for this in the recent past, maybe the last parts of 2019, and we done all this inner work when we were actually hopeful, we were lighthearted, we were playful in our minds, with our thoughts, with our creativity, with all the beauty within us. But now that is no longer a healthy way of navigating through this karmic turmoil, because this is when we have to be so very in tune with realism. For what we plant into the universe in the present moment is exactly what we are going to harvest. And if we plant just lightheartedness, if we just plant games and childish thoughts and childish plans, that is exactly what we are going to harvest. Symbols. Like, for example, now this is just an example, so don't take it personally, don't take it offensively, it is not judgment or anything, this is just an example. Like, if, for example, I'm someone who is in the present moment focusing on the war of the worlds, of the war between light and dark, angels and demons, on the war between polarities, and that is the predominant factor in my current reality, and not how I'm gonna survive in 2021 or 2022, well then I might become a very, very successful blogger, a very successful writer. But if that has nothing to do with my future and nothing to do with what I would like to experience, yet still that is the only thing karma can gift me with, because that was what I was doing all along. I was focusing on something ethereal. I was focusing on something very susceptible to the world of the soul and not anything else. So, even it doesn't matter what I've done within that war, it doesn't matter which side I supported, but those two sides don't need me at all. They don't need warriors, they are just fine themselves because they're just energies. And when it has to manifest, well, whatever I placed and invested into my future is what I'm going to get. And if I wrote about this and I made people aware, well, that is what I'm gonna harvest, the fruits of my labor. I become a successful writer, but if that's not what I want to do in this life, if I wanted to live like a big love story or whatever, well, that is not going to happen because I haven't done anything in that sense, because I was focusing on something which is only susceptible to the world of the soul and nothing else. And this is exactly why the reading is continued in opportunity position by the Ace of Earth, which is a very powerful card because it represents material stability, but also a new beginning. So a renewed, regenerated, fresh material situation, material stability. But this is where it's very, very interconnected. It doesn't matter that much what you have done in the past, because this is where all of us are heading into something new, where the past and what we have done in our past won't matter as much as then who we are, what we want to do, how we see the world in the present moment. So this is where, our life views, our inner truth, who we are right now, who we are at the very core of our being, without the past, without that very rigid and fixed identity that, for example, I am a plumber or I am an accountant. That won't matter in the future. What will matter is that you, to be yourself, you to be the honest version of yourself. That is the only thing that's gonna matter, and there is not gonna be that much pressure from the outside. It won't matter if you wanna do something or you don't really wanna do something. All will matter is that you are healthy, you are stable, and you are yourself without anyone's conditioning. And that is why this Ace of Earth is so very important, because that is the future you have to step into, and everything will begin from there. So it's not like, when you build a house already and you just move into it and enjoy it, but it's more like you demolished an old house which was already crippling, which was already, the roof was falling in your head, everything was already wasted, so you demolished that. And of course it wasn't an easy thing to do, but this is where all you're left with is the ruins, the construction material, and of course the place of the house. And you don't step into a newly built house, but you start building it the way you wish it, the way you like it, in the present moment. So of course you have every option for your new house to look like exactly your old house, but at the same time, if you want to change anything, if you want to add or take away or make it, any style you would like to, you have the luxury, you have the option to do that. And that is why it's so very important to, tune down that child of air, especially in shadow position, because this is where you cannot be dreaming about a medieval castle or a palace when you have just a little cottage, for example. You need to be real, and you know that a cottage can only become, a little bit bigger cottage at most, but not a castle, not a fairy tale, magical citadel, or a castle in the clouds, or an ivory tower. It can only become what it was, but altered, refined, perfected, added to it. So you can make it bigger, you can make it more beautiful, you can make it whatever you want, but it still has to be pretty much just a cottage, just a average house, because that is what you had. However, if you want a castle, if you want the ivory tower, well, then you just have to change your tactics 180%. You have to readjust that child of air, because dreaming about it is not going to deliver it to you, but working and sacrificing for it is a totally different deal. But you have to become aware of what you have to do if you want the castle. So basically, that Ace of Earth is, well, your future and your material stability of the future is very susceptible of whatever you're planning in the present moment, but it has to be in tune with reality, because all of us know almost certainly that the world is changing. Finances are changing, value systems are changing, social structures and everything that has to do with it is changing. And yes, we don't know how, we don't know what it's gonna be like, but what we do know is that something which is uncertain also has a very big chance to, unite you with what you desire. This is where all doors to whatever you want are not closed, because it's uncertain, and that uncertainty has a 50% chance to turn into what you desire, into what would make you happy. But that is where your own happiness has to be real, has to be in tune with reality. Because you get what you ask for. If your happiness is ethereal, if your happiness is just a philosophy, well, then don't expect that to reflect in the world of matter in any way or shape or form. If you choose something ethereal, if you choose something purely spiritual, well, then you have to take the responsibility and know that you're not gonna get it in a material way. So you have to be happy. If that is what you want, then you have to, drop all your expectations and just know that what you're gonna get is just an energy, and that's it. You have to be happy with it and buy. If not, well, then this is the moment when you have to readapt your plans, when you have to include the element of materialism, regardless of how uncomfortable that is, or regardless of how against your own principles that is. So basically, this is the duality of all of this, because there's a 50% when we're heading into an unknown future that things are gonna be totally outside our control and we'll just have to go with the flow, and it can very well mean, some years of just having to survive with what we got, but there's that other 50% chance that maybe it can actually be something which makes us more happy than we were before, or something that we can actually, adopt as our own and integrate it into our lives and be in harmony with it. So this is basically the opportunity of the Ace of Earth, that it's 50-50 chance that the new can be something totally outside of our sphere of control, and then we'll just have to adapt and that's it. But there's that other 50 chance where maybe we can actually pull it through in a way that it upgrades all of our life, everything, every single area, everything. But in order for us to do that, before that big change happens, well, we need to be aware, we need to be conscious, we need to be in tune with reality, and we have to know who we are. And who we are is not our ego, is not our forced identity, and it's not how other people think and see us. If anything, it is more like who we accept and choose to be. And finally, we get to the resolution, which is the Three of Water, the card of celebration. But water is emotion, so basically, if you choose in the present moment to face the inner turmoil, to discipline your thoughts, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's painful, even if it's so frightening, scary, even if it drives you mad, even if you have to confront certain thoughts and things about certain truths about yourself, which all your life you had, put under the carpet, like the subconscious. If you do this right now, if you accept this painful moment or this difficult, delicate moment and go through it by not allowing your fantasies and your, the chitter chatter of your mind, may it be positive or pessimistic, to get in your way, well, that sacrifice, that effort is going to turn into happiness in the future, and that happiness is guaranteed, because if you don't have unhealthy, surreal expectations, then you cannot go wrong. Then all paths are going to lead to happiness, even if the future you step into is going to, require for you to just adapt to it. It is still going to be easier if you stand from a place of honesty and self-knowledge and aligned with yourself. If you don't have a unhealthy grip on an identity you want to play out, on the way your ego has always been and it has to be like that for the rest of your life, be flexible, flow like water, be light as air. It doesn't matter who you think you are. Nothing matters anymore, because the world is changing. So just find out who you are on the soul level and who you wish to become in the world of the future, and that is already enough for your happiness. It's already enough, Three of Water, for you to have wonderful friends. Few in number, of course, but those few are gonna be everything that you need in your life. And ultimately, every single day of the future can be a celebration of life, of freedom, of lightheartedness, everything that you have to sacrifice right now. So basically, just open your mind, shut down the fantasy, shut down all those elements which are not in tune with reality, and just focus on what you have to do in the present moment, and it's going to be your key towards the future, a future where you're going to be much more happier than you were before. Well, thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful, and I hope it offered you a little bit of guidance and hope. Be safe and blessed, everyone. Until next time, bye for now.